looking at Indian snack market, there were hardly any snacks available, which even you can say better for you, because most of the snacks which were claiming to be healthy were either grain based or potato based. So you talk about soya sticks, you talk about soya katuris, multigrain steaks. So inherently it has gluten in it and which cannot be healthy. So at that time, I came across an interesting technology called vacuum frying, which helps in basically converting the vegetables, actual vegetables, into a snack, which retained more than 90% of the nutrients and the fiber content of that snack. Just to show you something, so this is what we do. This is a bhendi, and it goes perfectly with the chai. So, and we do 7 different kind of snacks like that. We do tomato, which turn into a snack. We do beetroot. We do purple sweet potato. We do chickpea, golden sweet potato. So all
So
the vegetables we
have a tomato to show us as well?
So this is the tomato.
That's nice.
Super crunchy. So with that idea of providing nutritious and crunchy snacks, we started To Be Honest. And the honesty part being the product itself, because it's as honest as it can be, and also the ethos behind the brand. And that's where we started To Be Honest in 2017. Since then, the journey has been good. We have scaled up to more than 1,000 stores in Delhi, NCR, and Bombay. Add to that, we supply on most of the online platforms like BigBasket, Amazon, Flipkart, etc. And we also started exporting to Middle East and Singapore very recently. And thanks to COVID, hopefully demand from Chinese market will decrease internationally, and we can supply to more countries outside.
Good.
Mayank, I think you should just eat the okra and show how crunchy it is.
Oh, by the way, that is Mayank's wife, Ritika, who's also part of the venture, who has also joined in.
Hello,
Hi.
Ritika. See you.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Ritika. Lovely to have you on board as well.
She's the marketing brain behind TBH.
Okay, okay. So you've eaten.
What?
As she wanted you to eat the okra and tell us how crunchy it was.
Yeah, absolutely. It is absolutely crunchy.
Great. But you're eating alone. It's so unfair on all of us.
I know. So I'll send across some to Shriram.
Great, great.
Oh, great. So that
no,
was
I don't know whether it was your brand, but I bought it in Vasant Kunj in one of the stores. So I don't know whether I didn't know the name behind it, but I've had okra as a snack. Yes.
So must be ours, because we are the only one currently in Delhi doing this.
Okay. It's good. It's really good.
Thanks.
Wonderful. So for the benefit of some of our students and also other faculty members who have joined in, you are a venture capital funded startup. Okay. So what are some of the challenges that you encountered and how did you overcome them along the way?
Okay. So see, funding, as everyone knows, any startup which is started these days has one angle towards funding. But I would say there are 3 kind of funds that you can avail. So one is VC fund, which is a standard fund. But people fail to realize these days that customers are your biggest funders. So if you are not able to produce a product which helps the who can attract customers, that's the first source of funding you will get. The second source of funding is your employees. Then comes the VC fund. So once you are able to sort the first 2, and for the first 2, what I would say, you need a great product and you need a great story. So I always tell to anyone who is going out to raise funds, you need to be a great storyteller to raise that fund. So everything starts there. So coming to the actual process of getting the funds from a VC. So there are multiple platforms these days where you can pitch your idea, pitch your product, pitch your company, and convince a VC or an angel investor to come on board. But what happens is people forget. I have seen a lot of investors and startups coming together and then failing because the thesis which the startup was following and the thesis which the investor came in with didn't match. So it is very important for any startup to understand the investors to which they are pitching. It is in line with the thesis of the company. So just to give an example, like at TBH itself, our thesis is we have to be offline first and then do digital. So there are a lot of investors who were interested in funding us, but they wanted us to be an only online digital brand. So we consciously denied those fundings and opted for an investor who was in line with the thesis. And and lastly, I would say you should firstly build the business. Once the business is built, the investors will follow, rather than the other way around, go out looking for investors and then start building business as per the investor. So these are some of the classic mistakes a lot of startups do these days. That's I've been seeing.
Okay. That was great. Some of the things that, you know, lot of the times entrepreneurs usually tell me, or, you know, tell us that when investors come from outside, when investors buy into your company, there's a lot of interference that happens. Did you face some of those issues when you got funded?
So I would say in the initial time, it will happen, and that will happen in any relationship. So if someone is coming, there are trust issues. The investor is putting in money, so he's not 100% sure about how well you'll be able to handle that money. And on the other hand, the startup or as founders, you're not very sure about the entire thesis and the entire idea which the investor is coming in with. So I have seen, so initial 3 months are always tough. Once that settles down and you are able to gain mutual trust, then it's a quite smooth sailing. And we have faced the same.
Okay, so there is always those storming and forming sort of stages in a group.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And till the time you are doing good, no investor will bother you. And if the company starts to doing a little bad and starts wavering off from the targets, then every investor will come to you.
Okay.
And hound you.
Wonderful. Now, you know, almost every business, whatever scale it has been in, has been affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. Yours, especially being a small business, how have you managed during these times?
So it's been tough. So saying that things have been easy won't be right. Like on 22nd March, as soon as the lockdown was announced, everything got shut. So, and the challenges were multi-pronged. So the main challenge was towards the people we had in the company. They didn't have anything to do. They couldn't venture out of their homes. So ours is a like sales focused company. So we had a lot of sales people on the ground. So suddenly 70% of the workforce was not doing anything. And the remaining 20% who had to come to office were too scared to come to office because of the entire situation. And there were no means, there was no public transport. So even we got the clearances from the local government, being an essential service, to start the facility. There was no one in the factory. So there were a couple of days, it was just me and my co-founders in the office. But, and second challenge was the logistic issues, the supply chain. So there was no raw material availability. We were not able to supply the finished products to the end consumers, and the distributors stopped working. So basically everything came to a standstill. So these were the initial challenges we faced. But gradually, people started understanding. We went down to the employees' houses to talk to their parents, talk to their landlords, explain them the working conditions that we have, so that they got confidence, and slowly and steadily, at least the production staff started coming to office. And within 12 days, I would say, of the lockdown, we started working back at a 30-35% capacity.
Okay. And in terms of, so even right now you're working at 30-35% capacity, or you have scaled up a little bit?
So currently we are working at 50% capacity. So our main markets are Delhi, Bombay, and Bangalore. So out of these three, Delhi and Bombay are completely shut. So out of the 1,000 stores that we supply to, we are only able to supply to 120 odd stores. But what we had seen during these tough times, even out of those 120 stores, that is 10% of the total number of stores, we are able to generate 50% of the revenue. And that is, and there are two reasons. One is obviously panic buying. I won't deny that. But what we had seen during this time is a lot of people who were not even coming to the stores were asking for our brand. And being a smaller startup, we were quite unsure that how will conversion at the store happen unless our sales guys are in the store or the promoters are in the stores. But people actually remembered the brand. And that's where I think the words we used to listen to in our B school days, the brand loyalty and the brand love. I got to understand the power of these words in these tough times, how that turns into revenue, and how customers and consumers recall and remember your brand and starts asking for it.
Wonderful. It is good that you're connecting your MBA days to your startup experiences, which is a great thing. But going forward, Mayank, what do you think is the outlook for your business or other such FMCG products that are in the, in your arena, in your competitor arena, so to say? What do you think is the outlook for them?
So if we talk about product wise, so wellness and health are gonna be the next big thing, I would say. So anyhow, the market was shifting towards better for you products, but the shift was very gradual. But suddenly COVID coming in, what we have seen, even in our online sales, suddenly the spike in the sales of health and wellness products. And I believe this spike will continue. And the growth rate, which was at 10 to 12%, will suddenly become more than 20%. And it's a great time to be in the wellness field and the health field. With respect to the consumer behavior and the buying patterns, obviously the footfalls in the retail stores will decrease. And what's already happening, a lot of virtual or cloud stores are coming in, like cloud kitchens. Apart from the Amazons, the big baskets, the milk baskets, which are already there, a lot of cloud stores are coming in at a local level. So Zomatos and Swiggies and Dunzos, they have started their fulfilling services. And a lot of people have created cloud stores, filled it up with brands like us, and are delivering in a hyper local way. The same way the food is delivered. So I think the store will shift from physical to cloud now.
Okay. So a lot of, so most of your customers, if you can give a sense to the viewers who have joined in about how are you marketing your product against the big wigs, which are already well established in the snack segment, so to say.
So I'll talk about pre-COVID time. So in the pre-COVID time, so there were two-pronged approaches. So one was at the store level. So at the store level, we knew we have a fantastic product. So the best way of marketing your product is to let the customer try it. And if a customer likes it, he will buy it. So on the offline front, we used to do a lot of product trials. We used to do product trials at corporate offices, in stores, in malls, any opportunity we got, and exhibitions. And on the online segment, that's where we communicated our brand ethos and the brand positioning. And we do a lot of communication online using different social media channels like Instagram, Facebook, Google AdWords. And now we are coming up with a brand campaign where we are making brand films, which will actually drive our brand proposition to the end consumer. And again, that will be all digital. For a smaller brands, digital is the best way going forward. And luckily, during these times, the screen time of everyone has increased. So that is also an added bonus.
Okay, just so that we understand your product and your company a little better, can you tell the viewers what are your product names and what are the price points that you're selling at?
So we have two SKUs. Smaller SKUs are sold at 49, and the bigger SKUs are sold at 129. And so we have 7 different variants, and these are okra, golden sweet potato, purple sweet potato, chickpea, tomato, beetroot, and the newest addition is taro. So taro is Arabi.
Taro is Arabi. Okay, Arabi. Okay.
Yeah, and so, it unlike Arabi, it tastes delicious. So these are the 7 variants that we are doing currently.
Taro is Arabi called taro in some language?
So yeah, so taro, Arabi is called taro in English. So
Arabi is called taro. I learned that for the first time.
Even
I thought it was sweet potato. I thought it was sweet potato.
No,
or maybe
potato is that reddish thing. Not
that is you eat in winters.
Okay.
Sweet potato is shakarkandi.
Shakarkandi. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's nice. Yeah.
Great,
Again,
great.
like, so this is how taro looks like.
Okay.
So you see
And
the reshas, the arbi ke jo resha hote hain. So,
Uh-huh.
and these are my
Okay.
all-time favorite. Like taro is like all-time favorite.
Well, we probably like the taro, and that now that I've learned a new name, because I suppose अंग्रेज कभी taro खाते नहीं होंगे तो हमें कभी नाम नहीं common हुआ.
Exactly.
Good.
so wonderful. We also wanted to know which of your chips is the highest selling one, and which do you think has the potential to be a good product as well?
So the golden sweet potato and taro, these two are doing the best these days.
Okay.
And so frankly, okra and tomato are the like the customer pullers. Everyone who wants and tries, when they see okra or tomato, as ma'am also rightly said, it's quite different. So everyone comes to the brand for these two products, but the repeat buy of golden sweet potato and purple sweet potato and taro, I think they are very close to potato, but with all the health benefits. I guess that's the reason the repeat customers are for that.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So I will, let some of our students and other faculty members or anybody who has a question can probably pose a question for Mayank. Anybody?
Okay, since nobody's asking, Mayank, I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes,
You decide on the product, for example, taro, okay, yours was latest offering was taro or okra. Whenever you decide to introduce a new product, what is your consumer research? Who does your consumer research, and where do you get the data that possibly something that people may like?
So what we do is firstly, we look at the back-end sourcing before launching a product. So if we know we have three sourcing, like we can source taro, we can source purple sweet potato, we can source golden sweet potato at a competitive price, which will make commercial sense. So that's the starting point. Once we are final, okay, these three are the options. What we do is then we basically convert them into a chip, and we have a flavoring house on board. It's an American flavoring house called Midas. So we go to them. They develop multiple seasonings for these options. So if we have three bases, they will develop close to 20 options for us. And post that, there are so there's a service. So we can go for sensory analysis. So there are tasting experts available. These include the five-star chefs. They are actual professional tasters, like wine sommeliers. They are professional food tasters. So we do couple of sessions with these food tasters, get the entire sensory analysis report. So they give us what kind of taste profile it is, where it will do well, where it won't do well. So that's where we are able to shortlist maybe out of those 20, 5 of them. And from that 5, we then turn to our customers. So we have a decent online customer base. We send them free samples, send them a feedback form online, and then they give us the feedback. And out of these 5, we choose 1 or 2 winners, and then we launch it. So it's an entire process, which includes experts, which includes customers, and which also includes input from the founding team.
So how much time would it take, having done this research, zeroing on the flavor you'll do, and then putting it into the market? How much time?
So it's close to 4 months, 4 to 5 months. It's a tedious process.
Yeah.
So that's the reason you need to have multiple options.
Anything that didn't work out well?
So yes, so we have launched products, then we had to take it back. Issues could be shelf life issues. So we launched carrot actually. So it tasted really nice, and it tasted like really nice. We launched it. So the problem with carrot is it has creatine in it. So after 2 months, it started going bad. So we had to. So, and even if you do shelf life testing, the shelf life tastings accelerated one takes 3 months for a 1-year test. So we had launched it in a hurry, and we had to take back a lot of stuff from the market.
Okay, and I seem to be the only one asking questions. Maybe our students would like to ask.
Also, just to add to that, before we launch any product commercially in the market, what we also do is we have a very strong customer base in Delhi NCR. And since we are based out of Noida itself, we send out like sample packs to our customers who are dedicated, who are repeat customers, because they oblige us with giving us good feedback. So for us, because naturally, you know, I mean, a brand is nothing without customer, right? So we always like send out free samples, reach out to them, and like after we hear from them, because like Mayank mentioned, any flavoring house gets back to you with 20 seasoning options for you, depending on the region, area, etc. we want to launch. So what might be very nice or tasty for Mayank, me, and the team internally at TBH might not be what the customer is looking for. So we try and kind of reach out to customers from different part of the countries, kind of get a collective feedback and see what is working for them the best. Because it's not just the flavoring, even the texture, right? Like what is the thickness of the chip, how thick it should be, how what it should look like. And the beauty of our product is that it's not Pringle, right? That it's a fixed shape. It is, it's like, you know, it's how bhindi is big, chota. It's the same thing with us. So we can play with the thickness of the chip. Some of it, like, you know, for instance, like, you know, that aloo thing that a lot of people, I think the brand is called Kakaji, that aloo chip that a lot of people love to eat. It just is very thin. Whereas on Lay's potato chips, it does the particular width. So even to kind of experiment what is the thickness of the chip that we should achieve, it takes a lot of time. So we can send out different batches, different with thickness, different seasonings to our repeat customers as well, and try and get their feedback to kind of see what works, because it should be palatable for them by the end of it.
Very good. Very good. Sounds exciting. I think somebody else can have
quite a lot of technique behind chip making, huh?
Yeah.
One question. Due to this COVID-19, what do you expect? Will the CRP of these products, not only for yours, for anything, will there be change in CRP of the product, consumer related relatedness of the product? Will it change due to this COVID-19?
So yes. So if I got it right, so there will be a change in the consumer behavior. Like they will now prefer more established brands or brands which are more transparent, and words like hygiene and all the HACCP guidelines, the brands which are following that will get an upper hand. So I would say more established brands and more hygienic brands, I would say, are people would start preferring that.
Now, in the global scenario, how good it will be to compete, say, after one day COVID-19 situation will go. So after that time, we can't say as of now that Chinese products won't come back. So what will be the competition scenario in that context? I mean, with regard to that time.
So currently, the products that we are doing, China is the biggest exporter of those products to the world. So they export it to the US, to the entire Australia and New Zealand. And suddenly we have gotten spurt in the inquiries coming from US and Europe, who were earlier sourcing from China, and now they are looking at alternates. So already the shift is happening, especially in the food category. So maybe mobiles and cars and electronics, people might still continue buying from China, but especially in the food, which is actually consumed, people are looking for alternatives. And I see India has a great opportunity to grab onto, especially with the entire agriculture setup that we have here, the raw material sourcing, cheap labor. Compared to China, we are still very cheap. So if we get right government support, I think exports can be a really, especially in food, it could be a really big thing going ahead.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Shriram?
Yes, yes, please, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I had a different query from my end. You see, startup companies, when you look for investors. So I was curious to know what sort of return these investors are looking for when they invest in startups like you. So I mean, the numerical number, or maybe in the long term, in a staggered manner, what sort of return they expect?
So minimum, So the minimum as per SHA, the standard clause is 25% IRR yearly,
Okay.
and that is compounded.
My
So,
goodness.
and they and they come in with a horizon of 5 years. So they come in with a horizon of 5 years. So that's why when I said initially, investor should be the last person you should go for funding.
I
Firstly,
know.
try and make a profitable business. And if you want money for growth, because in FMCG, the problem is if you don't do it, some other bigger player will come with a similar product line. So you need to have external funding. So there are a lot of businesses which don't require external funding, and you can easily build a profit-making company. But yeah, getting investor on board, they require a heavy return. So you can imagine 25% IRR is
Yeah,
quite heavy.
quite heavy. Yeah.
Yes.
Another question is
Even
post
yes.
COVID. Now, what would be your strategy to promote your branding? Now, since the market is now become more fluid, and then you said that people are looking for branded items and all. So, will you shift your strategy for promoting your branding, product
So
branding?
what we've started doing is, so like anyhow, because we understand the consumer will become more skeptical about multiple products that are there in the market, especially coming from small startups. So the only way we can convince them, building a brand takes a lot of time. So the only way we can convince them now is by being transparent. So we are starting with the campaign where we will be actually showcasing our kitchen, the entire production area, live, doing live Facebook and Instagram sessions, so that people actually see where the products are being made. And this is the most transparent any brand can be. And that also goes in with our ethos of being honest. So secondly, we are very honest on the claims we make, and the back of pack, if you see the nutrition table. So I guess these are the things which now the consumer will start noticing, and one has to be very transparent and very honest in doing so, and that's the only way you can compete with the bigger brands.
Okay, Mayank, my good wishes to you. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Because we have roughly about a minute or so left. If there are any more questions, we can address them now.
Okay, Mayank, you've done wonderfully well. I'm very, very impressed with your life script and life cycle so far. Where does the cycle head in the future? Future plans? What's on the
Future
anvil?
plans. So keep providing delicious snacks and delicious food products under our honest umbrella, and hopefully someday we become a much bigger brand and are able to compete with the big wigs in the country and globally.
We wish that for you. God bless you. One last line.
Thank you,
What's
ma'am.
your people mantra?
What, ma'am?
People mantra?
My people mantra is lead by example. That's the only mantra.
Very good. You're doing a great job. Very, very impressed by your, your journey so far. And believe me, I'll go and find out the brand that I've been eating. Probably it's yours only in most of the Vasant Kunj malls where you have these stores.
Absolutely. Yes.
One is the Ambience Mall. What is that store called? I've
Food
forgotten.
hall.
Lamarche, food
Hall.
halls.
You
Yes.
supply there?
Yes.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
where I get it. And then the
Okay.
other one, there's the mall where only foreigners go in Vasant Kunj in Delhi. I've forgotten the name. I think Priya